Well, hello everybody, and thank you for being here. We have a very interesting roundtable about digital platforms, labor, and digital rights. Just to introduce myself, I'm Raúl Tabarés from Tecnalia, also partner in the Plus project, and I would like to give a brief overview of all the presenters here in this session. So, please, if you want to say some words about you and about your initiative, just some words. Yeah.
Hello everyone. I'm Damiano Avellino from FairBnB. Basically, we are part of the Plus project. FairBnB is a platform cooperative that allow people to book and rent apartment in a sustainable way. So we try to create another model compared to the extractive model that we already have with the existing touristic platform, basically.
Hello everybody, I'm Benoit from Smart Cooperative. We are also part of the Plus project. Smart Cooperative is a worker cooperative in Europe. We are based in 9 countries. We do speak more about 44 cities where we are actually in Europe. Around 100,000 members, actually independent workers who benefits as employees. They have all the advantages of benefits from the cooperatives.
Hi, my name is Raquel Gil, and I'm Commissioner for Quality Employment and Fight Against Precariousness from Barcelona City Council. I have started just 3 months ago, and that's because the city wanted to make a statement and not only working in employment policies, that it's something that we've been doing for quite a long time and we continue to do it, but to have the political stress in how to fight these diverse ways of precariousness that we have in the city and that are making every time our people more and more working poor people.
Hi, I'm Baybars Kulebi from Xarxa de Economia Solidària, the Solidària economy network. And it's a second-level cooperative, legally an association, which has partners, members as cooperatives, and it's an organization which works to build and strengthen cooperativism, mostly in Catalonia. And what CHES does is they enable cooperatives to strengthen their relations with each other, and one of the examples of it is making fairs. Each year, as you might see from my t-shirt, CHES organizes a fair of Solidarity economy of Catalonia, and it's basically a platform of intercooperation, and there are other functions in order to put certain rules and standards to make cooperativism more sustainable, more egalitarian, etc. I'm here as a part of the Commons Commission. As a Commons Commission, we work on mostly digital topics, and we also try to help the network, cooperative network, to empower the cooperatives digitally.
Hi, I'm Sergi from Katuma. Katuma is a cooperative, second-level cooperative, that shares the platform with product producers of food and consumers, trying to empower the short food supply chains, and also trying to be an alternative of big size distributions chains.
Hi, okay. So my name is Melissa Renau, and I'm working in the Plus project doing a PhD. I'm going to explain a little bit how it's going to be organized this session, because it's a little bit weird. We are going to be co-moderating the sessions. So we are going to be Raúl from Tecnalia. It's going to moderate the first part of the debate. about generally labor in the impacts of labor in cities, and then we will focus in the concrete labor rights that have to be promoted in the platform economy, and how cooperatives and how alternative models are going beyond current law agreements, promoting better working conditions in the platform economy. Yeah, so first, I forgot to say it, I'm going to make a short presentation about the first results of the PLUS project, what is it about, and later we will start with the debate, okay? We want to make this session really participative, so if you want to make any questions in any moment, please raise your hand and we will try to answer them. Okay, so I'm part of Dimmons research group. Dimmons is currently working at the PLUS project. The PLUS project basically is a European project that gathers 7 cities around Europe in order to study the labor conditions in the platform economy in 4 sectors. In the short-term rental sector, in the taxi services sector, in the food delivery sector, and on the care sector. So we are doing a work in order to differentiate the different business models that are operating in the platform economy. In order to differentiate these models, we created the start of democratic qualities that you see here in the presentation. The first start that we developed is basically the center of the image. And you can see that we differentiate the business models depending on the economic model, the technology, the data, the social impact, the social responsibility of the project, and the governance. But we wanted to go further from differentiating this and linking it to wider frameworks that are being used. So we link it to the social development goals. And we see that each of the parts, it's being treated except from the technology and data part, data sections that are not being covered by current social development goals, which is already like an important finding of our research. We also, this part that you see here, it's the Sharing Cities Declaration that we also link it. And basically what you see from this image is that we go beyond the sharing development, the social development goals, and we also try to study the technology and the data of each of the models of the platforms. So basically, the study that we are carrying out now, it's a study about 60 different platforms in the platform economy, in the 4 different sectors. So we are studying the taxi services sector, we are studying the network, hospitality business, urban food delivery, and on-demand home on-demand home service and caring. In each of these sectors, we are gathering up 12 different cases. Each of these cases we have, for example, the biggest one, so the for-profit business platforms such as Airbnb, such as Uber, Deliveroo, Glovo, all these platforms, but we also wanted to include smaller platforms and alternative platforms that are maybe promoting better working conditions and a fairer platform economy. From these 60 cases that we aim to collect with the web collection, we did 20 interviews with some of them, with 20 cases. In concrete, of these 20 interviews, 10 of them were with alternative models. So we already, we have 50% of the sample of for-profit models and non-for-profit models. So this is basically what you see here. We have 44 platforms. So the major part of the sample is about for-profit platforms. So we are here. We have Cabify, we have Airbnb, we have Couchsurfing, etc. But we also wanted to include other ones. So you basically see more or less the distribution of the sample. Just to give some data to stimulate the debate. When we interviewed 9 platform cooperatives, but from the 9 platform cooperatives, not all of them are owners of the platform. Some of them are just users of the platform. So we have, in concrete, 3 platform cooperatives that are currently, they are just, the users are not owners. The workers are not owners of the platform. This is happening first because some of them are just networks of platforms, and they are not by themselves like a platform itself, but of course, we can also discuss a little bit about it. Another thing, regarding spaces for organization, what does it mean, spaces for organization? If the platforms are really promoting workers to organizing themselves, of starting working with in the platform, if they start asking things in general, if they have some involvement with the platform functioning and the management of the platform. And here we find that 14 platforms say that yes, so more platforms than the cooperatives ones decided that they were promoting workers' organization. This is really interesting because this means, and the main reason of this is that platforms believe that they are doing it, but they don't want to do it. So for example, for-profit platforms such as the main delivery platforms of food in Europe and basically in the world, some of them think that they are really helping workers to organize, but they don't want to do this. They want to remove these points, they want to remove these options because they don't see it as something positive, they see it as something negative. Whereas cooperatives, of course, are by themselves already like a space of promotion and organization by themselves. Regarding the juridical status of the workers of the different models, we find something really interesting, as it's that just 5 of the 20 studied cases have all their workers in paid employment. So the other ones are relying in self-employment in some way, in some degree, or in some degree completely, 7 cases, or we have a mixed model. So we have models that are like, they have some people in paid employment, but the other ones are, it's self-employed workforce. And here we find six projects. The non-answers that you see, the 2 cases, is because they are not already employing anyone because they didn't succeed, so they just closed. Also, regarding another interesting data, regarding the salary over the minimum wage, just 6 platforms were able to tell us that the workers were, 7 platforms, sorry, were earning more than the minimum wage per hour. This means that even cooperatives are not able to provide really good working conditions and are competing in a market that it's really damaging also them, even when they want to promote better working conditions. And finally, another information, because we are always talking about flexibility, about the working conditions. We are hearing that the platform economy is promoting greater flexibility and labor flexibility. But what do we can know about it? That at the end, flexibility is something that is bargained. It's something that has to be, it depends on power relations. And that's the main result that we find here, is that platforms, for-profit platforms, say that, for example, workers are participating in this negotiation and they can, for example, decide how many hours they want to work or the schedule, but at the end, this decision we have to take into account that it's produced in an unequal world. So we have 5 platforms that say that they are doing this by a negotiated way, and some of them are for-profit platforms that have a lot of power to decide the schedule of the workers and of the careers and of in general. And in this sense, we just find 4 platforms that in this case are cooperatives. That's completely the producer, worker, collaborator, as you want to call it, is deciding exactly the exact amounts that they are working and when they are working during these hours. These are the main data that we have, the first results that we have of this study. I hope that this stimulates a little bit the debate and you start thinking about things. But now I would like Raúl to present the Sopo Labs at Plus.
Yeah. Just to be brief, I mean, we are in charge of the work package of... Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. We're in charge of the work package of communication and engagement, and I would like to stress that in Plus we are doing not only communication and dissemination, but also engagement. And we are doing this with our main tool, that is the Social Policies Lab, which is something that has been steamed in the last years in many forms. And I mean, for instance, living labs, urban labs, social labs, and the key thing about this social lab movement is that people are the stars of this process. I mean, everybody knows what is a lab, but these kind of pilot actions that are conceived and originated in this kind of environments are addressing the societal challenges that are right now affecting our society. And this is the spirit behind this kind of intervention. So our idea in this project is try to engage with the stakeholders that are affected and worried about the platform economy effects, just to involve them into the outputs of the research and contributing to helping and building several networks of interest, pilot actions that can be scaled up and transferred to other regions, and fomenting this kind of knowledge brokering and knowledge transferring of the research outputs of the project, but also the tacit knowledge that lies behind these kind of communities that are pushing this grassroots innovation at the urban level. So, yeah, this is the kind of labs that we are also holding in another European project, and just to give you a very brief glimpse of the idea is that we will conduct three sessions of the SOPO Lab at European level in Barcelona, Berlin, and Brussels. Another 7 sessions conducted at city level in the 7 cities that are also involved in the project, with this aim to promote reflexiveness, participativeness, participatory processes, and contextualize engagement of the different stakeholders at the city level that can be scaled up to other regions in order to not to transfer the best practices, but also the knowledge that has been nurtured in these kind of processes. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, so I think it's better just to go directly throughout the debate, right? So we have I think it's better to we have a lot of stakeholders here in this debate. So I will, Melissa and me were preparing some kind of guiding questions just to guide the debate. But one of the main ones that were also in our previous conversation was about how cooperatives and cities can work together in promoting digital skills and digital literacy to citizens, because right now we have a very political push from the European Commission just to invest in digital jobs, but digital jobs require a lot of digital skills, but not only digital skills, because digital literacy is something that more broad, that involves a lot of cultural particularities that are probably left out of the digital skill frameworks. So the first question is just to set the ground, and because we have cooperatives and we have policy administrations, what is your impression? I mean, there's something to do about to stitch this relationship and to work in this kind of actions. Anyone want to break the ice?
In general, I think that the role of municipalities is key. And for what we are seeing, the fact that in Europe you have just a really small amount of platforms, and that just 3% of the platform worldwide are from Europe. So we have this huge problem, and if we don't want to lose what is the modern race to the economy, because platforms became the infrastructure of the economy, we really need to act with all the instrument possible. And I think that municipality is one of the way on how to promote a different model, and so it's starting from there and from looking for other advantages that can come from actually really an alternative economic model, that it can be, for example, a model based on cooperativism. So since we lost already the platform race, it might be interesting to look at other model that can give us a competitive advantage that is not based on technology but more on ethical principles.
Yeah, I think also that cooperatives are the good answers now to a lot of problems we face, actually. and it's an answer. Economic answer can be local, but also kind of global. We have huge cooperatives actually in Spain. We know some of them, and it can be a good answer. And we do believe also that the answer is on two levels, on the local and, as you say, municipality it has to be a good partner, but also European partner, because as long as we have municipality pushing some initiatives, as long as there is no legal and financial help on a European level, at the European level, it will not become big platform. It will be even local and small initiatives. So we need both, I think. We need really local and European support.
As a municipality, I would like to stand first that we don't have any competence, legal competence, in regulating the market. Now it's better? Now? No. This one goes better, I think. I was saying that as cities, we don't have any power, or almost any power, in the regulating and the rules of the labor market. That being said, we are the ones closest to the people, so we are the ones facing the problems that the people has when they don't have a job or when they lose their job. It's not only about platforms, it's about technology, it's about digitalization, and it's about the impact that it has in all kinds of jobs. Because we always think about the technological jobs, but the administration job has a big impact with digital new processes, and also even in the taking care system as well. So it's for sure, and there are some studies all around Europe that tell us how many people it's going to be need in technological jobs or with technological knowledge, and all the people that it's going to lose the jobs they are having now because they are going to change or they are going to disappear somehow. So we do have a role to play in this re-skilling people and how we help people not to lose the job they have now, and for that we will need the complicity as well as the people who is employing them now. I would say it's not fair that it's only the city, and that will mean the citizens that are paying taxes, the ones in charge of doing this reskilling, that at the end of the chain, it's just giving profits to a company. But we have to work with them and try to find these solutions. Just last week we were in a European World Group of Employment, and there was this man from the metal sector in Belgium who was explaining us why not changing the point of view of the companies and make them understand that the people who are already working now will be productive only for 7% of the time, and then they will be reskilling and they will starting to work in the new sectors or the new jobs in the company to make that transition easier. But then we also have a lot of people that don't have these skills that we will have to help them from the beginning, and we are doing that in different ways. I don't know if it's fair that we have also the cooperatives the pressure of being the ones giving an answer. I think they are giving an answer by having another system and another way of working, or all the same as other social initiatives. And I think they can be like a bank of good practices that can be just going around the world. But I think we also have to keep in mind that most of the people is working in the ordinary companies that are not cooperatives, that are not social, and we have to work as a municipality for both of them. But I think these kind of nets and workings we are doing help us in having all these practices that can be just shown around, and for that we can work a lot with the cooperatives as well.
So I will abuse my position coming right after the municipality by actually telling what they do well and what they could do more also. So I completely agree that the municipality cannot govern and they don't have the right to interact with city labor rights. It's not their role. But there are certain things that the municipality can do. So in a normal industrial economy, what they do, they build roads. They build the infrastructure, and that generates a certain type of work, certain type of business. So in this digital economy, what we expect from the municipality is to build these resources, which is like open data. So Barcelona has a really nice open data platform. It can be bettered, the type of data can be enriched, etc., but it's already going really well. But there are also certain other aspects which are already discussed in the last legislature, and in this legislature we are also looking forward of their implementation, and that is the guide of open source use in municipality. So what happens is when the municipality has a contractor which develops software for them, that software ends up being locked within the institution. There has been a guide that was developed in the last legislature which puts certain certain minimum points of developing. We cannot ask for all the software to be developed to be open, but there can be certain standards which can open a certain part of the software. And the other part is the implementation of the use of open source tools within the administration, which will automatically support and help with the development of these open source tools. Because in many of the things, they are vendor locked to Microsoft, for example. So what would that cause? This is a type of resource that the digital, as the digital cooperatives who work with open source will benefit from. This will create an ecosystem which will allow for a different type of work, which we do. I mean, from this open source, the companies can also profit from, but cooperatives, we are also geared towards care work, work that has environmental impacts that the other companies are not really interested, and they don't have this problem of accessing to the digital resources. But if we have more open source resources, more data, more technologies that are accessible openly, we will be able to develop an economy that is an alternative to the current one.
And Katuma, we work with farmers, with small farmers that grow up our food. So I think this is something to protect also. And we share a platform that is an international platform. It's Open Food Network, that it's open source. And also, like Baybars, I think that it's important to finance and empower these kind of platforms, because always develop a platform is really expensive thing, and you should ensure that this platform can be reutilized or reused in other places.
Okay, so really interesting, the part of saying, of course, public administration plays a key role in helping cooperatives and alternatives to succeed, and it's also an important buyer, and it can really help. But so in this sense, partnerships are really important and are key. But you are forgetting a little bit that you are competing in a market where you are trying to promote certain rights, and this maybe it goes beyond cities, capabilities. But as cooperatives, you are trying to, and as alternative models, some of you here are trying to promote better laboral conditions or better working conditions, but at the same time you find yourself, for example, FairBnB, you have to compete with Airbnb somehow. Or you have to get customers into your platform, and at the same time you want to be fairer, you want to be all this, but it's not easy. So in this sense, the paper of platform cooperatives in cooperativism and in establishing the new rights or in empowering rights is very key. It's key, and it also can help city governments and governments in general to know what kind of rights they have to promote in the digital age. So I'm going to ask you now, as pilots from the PLUS project, they are going to collaborate in a chart of digital rights. They are going to help us to think the new digital rights that we are going to promote in general, and to ask the European Union to ask for them. So what kind of digital rights do you think that they have to be included in this chart? Anyone?
I think that first of all, it's very important not to forget the rights that we already had in the labor market. Because what it has changed, it's a tool we use to work, but the people is the same and the rights should be the same. I mean, if we had the right to rest, we still have to have the right to rest. And maybe now we call it digitalization rest or the connection, but the fact is that when you work, you need to work and you need to rest and you need to be with your family and you need to have your time. And that's a right that we used to have, more or less, and that we are losing with the digitalization. The same with security at work. If I work from my place, I'm the one in charge of my security. I don't have a company that has my back in my security issues. And that's something that we are not supposed to lose. And so on with all the rights. I think we shouldn't buy the story that tell us that with technology and the new future of the work, everybody will be happy and we won't have any more problems and we will stop working and the robots will do everything. We are still talking about people who's working because we need the money to get the food, to get the holidays, to get whatever we need to have our life project going on. And then, of course, what we should do is put the focus in those rights that are more related with the technology, as I said, no? But the fair salary, the right to the security at work, the right to the rest, the right to have access to long life education as well should be something that has to be there. And for that on, we can start like putting more things, but we shouldn't forget what it's the core of the rights of the labor market.
Yes, I just really want to underline this. It's not a matter of creating new rights. I mean, we have rights. I almost said we had rights. We have rights. We have social security. We have rights for holidays. We have rights for unemployed people. I mean, we have rights, but those rights were for employees. I mean, that's traditional employees. And it was this idea which came that in the new world, in the new economy, that could not be possible anymore. And it's not true. It's just a matter of organization. It has nothing, it's not really nothing wrong. I mean, you can really have all those rights. You can have all the social rights. You can have social security and be totally freelancer and be totally independent and be totally into this new gig economy. There is nothing in opposition. And it's not a question about new rights. It's just a matter of saying that we can adapt things, but I mean, rights are already there. And we shouldn't push things in opposite.
I think it can be interesting because there is all the gig economy that it's quite easy to understand that somehow this business model that are based on law holes, probably like the law are not ready to do this, but it's quite easy to see the difference between BlaBlaCar and Uber. I mean, like, you don't need a huge science to see that one is a platform that say, yeah, you give rides to people, but basically you are a taxi man, and actually the BlaBlaCar is a real sharing economy, let's say. But I think that it's more than the gig economy, we should think on how technology actually got all the surplus of time that we all have. We are all workers for Facebook, for Instagram. We are all content producers, and basically all this new technology are completely into our lives, and we are generating continuous value, and this value get extracted. And I believe actually that probably labor will be automated. I think that new jobs will be created, but I think that this rhetoric is very dangerous because basically all the economy that is growing is just being drained by few very rich, the 1% or 0.001% on whatever, and like it's really important that we take in account the fact that all the automation that will generate from artificial intelligence and all this sort of stuff don't need to get drained, and we need to think as the time that we spend on digital product as time that is labor, because we are actually working. We are not able to understand what they do with our mind, because in Silicon Valley, lots of people are working with neuroscientists. They basically target certain neurotransmitter that you have, and so there is a certain feature that is connected to a certain answer in dopamine, in serotonin, and all this sort of stuff. And I want to know what they are doing with my brain. So I think that this is the type of thoughts that we should have, you know.
I precisely wanted to talk about that, what you have been telling. I completely agree, and I even would further that to quote a 19th century cis white male, bearded cis white male, there's a tendency of the rate of profit to fall. So Marx said that automation would eventually lead to a crisis because you cannot get rid of labor from the production process and expect to have more profit, because the way you get profit is from surplus labor, the extra unpaid work that you do. So you do this unpaid work by being a content creator, or you do this unpaid work by in these gig economies that pays really terribly. So I think what we have to think and realize, what we are seeing is not the loss of jobs, but creation of terrible jobs. So it's not that the role of labor is disappearing. The labor is getting paid less and less for worse and worse type of work. And in order not to extend more, I'm going to give an example from Barcelona, precisely what has happened relating to the labor rights and how they are implemented. So last August, last summer, there was news in Guardian. Guardian exposed that Apple were transferring their data of their virtual assistant to contractors, and the contractors were doing quality assurance. This is against the general data protection of Europe. You cannot give the recordings of people to third parties. And this was only exposed because of whistleblowers, and this happened in UK. And suddenly a company in Barcelona which does language work and localization let go of 300 people at the same time. This is already in Glassdoor. I won't give the name of the company. The comments are there, and in the comments you can see we lost our only client, Apple, and suddenly 300 people were let go. And then they also note that this company wasn't obeying the labor laws, and they had many lawsuits against them. So two things. One is that Apple had a contractor in Spain which was working against labor laws, and it got only exposed because of a whistleblower. And two, this company already within their contract structure were doing illegal things. So I don't have any kind of suggestion how to solve this, but this is a terrible situation, and the only thing that I can say is resistance in terms of labor organization. The administration, public administration, can do only so much in front of a situation like this.
Yeah, okay. So, well, this was my first idea, like to move the debate, because what's labor exactly, right? Like, it's, of course, we have already rights, or we are losing them, but they are written, okay? But I wanted to move the debate to thinking about what's really labor in the digital age, right? For example, Deliveroo is not if you Google it, it's not a delivery company, it's a data company. So this is already, if you get inside the Deliveroo platform, you agree to give them your data constantly, and this is what is really their business about. And it's, of course, they deliver, but they are also thinking about what we do with this data. What dark kitchens do we open? No, what do we do next with shall we sell it to the city councils? So there are like multiple uses of this data, and also like the connection or disconnection of workers. How do they interact with the digital environment, and how do we give these rights from the traditional sphere to the digital sphere? So how do we make them that continue complying with the rights that they are already written, but they are not maybe promoting them as much as they could, no? So one of the key things in this sense is, okay, platform cooperatives, you are trying to do this. No, you are trying to change this. So how do you think that in this sense platform cooperatives can foster collective action in this sense to rethink labor? What is it in the digital age? And also maybe how in this sense the chart itself become a tool to help us to promote digital cooperatives, no? To promote yourselves as thanks to the chart, to say, okay, we have this digital chart and we have already companies, organizations that are already fulfilling it. So, and you are not doing anything, no? So maybe you should promote them from the public administration because this chart is already working. What do you think about this? I don't know if you have any comment about. No.
Just a quick thought. It's hard to fight and to promote the fact that we are just normal. I mean, it's the opposite way. I mean, it's normal to not sell the personal data of your salary to someone else. I mean, just going back to the basics. And so it's going really totally crazy if we should fight and then trying a lobby to say, hey, we are a lot of sector being just normal. I mean, just like we should just put it in the other way, like put it under the light, the fact that is exactly this, that the fact that there is kind of what they call it, new economy rhetoric, that is totally crazy and it's not normal, but we shouldn't be the cooperative, we shouldn't be the ones saying like, hey, it's great to be normal. It's great to be, I mean, fair with your data. It shouldn't be like this. I mean, I don't know, but...
In general, like we are particularly lucky because our business model, it works quite well, and we can it works. But there are some business models that cannot work really. Like probably there are some business models that shouldn't exist, you know. And but we like cheap things, fast things, and so some stuff probably should not really exist. I don't know. In general, to me, it's like it's mandatory that people start to care about the platform economy because we have a small window of opportunity, and if we don't act now, we won't be able to decide for our future. These are the infrastructure of the economies, and are based on and are natural monopolies. So it's really hard to beat them. And the more we wait, the more it will be hard to create alternatives. So I think that Europe has this huge problem. I say 3% of the platforms, the 75 are American, the other Chinese. And if you don't act now, you will lose. And maybe trying to have this type of approach, so maybe by having a competitive advantage through the promotion of fairness principles, is the way that we should try to act, you know?
You starting asking what is the labor now, and as we said before, we have already regulation that says what is a job, what is to be an employer, what is to have an employment. And so far, at least in Spain, it's the judges who are just saying after we have one of these big cases, hey, these people are workers, hey, you have to respect these rights. And as he was saying, no, somebody has to repeat, hey, that's what it's normal. But of course, we have another problem, as you have been all pointed, that it's the governance of all those data that we are just generating all the time. That it's not in the public hands so far, and that's a huge problem. Probably we have lost track as administrations to have control over what's going on with our data. And as you have been pointing, there are already some experiences that those data have been used against the people, not just to be healthy. No? You talk about health data, and they are not used just to see how to improve the health of the people. It's insurance using those data to see if you have to pay more or no because you have some problems, or you don't walk enough every day, or you just take the subway, or you whatever. Even if you are buying in some things. Google would send this information to the cloud, and somebody will know that which kind of consumer you are or what kind of person you are because you are buying in those things or getting into cooperatives or going to a bank. How we manage to control this, it's a huge thing, not only for the labor market, but also as we organize and the governments and the power relations in the world.
Yes, and when you write that I see in cooperative platforms, is the right that members of this cooperative can participate and can vote and can decide the future of this platform, no? So maybe the business models that fail can fail, but the decisions are owned by all the members. So I think it's important, the right in cooperatives.
Yeah, I was just also thinking in the some of the words that have appeared here, and I was remembering some words also of another scholar, Susanna Zuboff. I don't know if you're familiar with this book of Surveillance Capitalism, and well, one of the theses of this book is that the platform economy or surveillance capitalism is also generating a model that doesn't have customers and doesn't have clients, because these companies are using your data, but you are not buying data. Because you are left out of the equation. The data have been scrapped and is sold to some data brokers, and they're trafficking with your data or buying or selling your data. So I think that you mentioned also really important things. In terms of stakeholder involvement and public engagement of people, because there are a lot of people that is not aware about the inner workings of this model. So I was just to ask you how this public engagement or the stakeholder interactive processes can be or are facilitated by digital cooperatives, and how can be scaled with the help of cities or other policymakers. If you think that this could be something that you are working, but it can be pushed by policy administration.
Right now implemented, I don't think we can give an example, but from Barcelona, we have started talking about data ownership of the platforms. So there are certain platform cooperatives like Commons Cloud, for example, which is an alternative to Google Drive and Google Docs and other project management. And some of them were here actually, but I don't see him now. I am not involved with that, but from talking with them, I know that they want to start working with the data from the perspective of all the users own the data and decide what they want to do with the data. Right now, they are not using the data. So this perspective, at least in an abstract sense, is something we are talking about. And the more platforms are going to get developed, like Katuma also, the more data that we start having, we will start to build a kind of governance with that. That's what I believe.
I was thinking one of the few options is starting from the commons. Is saying that if we succeed at the end, one of the points saying that data, it's a common thing. It shouldn't be commercialized, monetized anyway. It's a common thing, so it can be shared, it can be used by other things in common, but as everything in common, it shouldn't be capitalized anyway. If we succeed, that's one of the options. One of the other options, it could be also that most of the people would love to sell their own data. And I don't know, but I don't know about the future, but one of the options for me is to fight for this. We are now, as you said, in this window of people are starting to realize exactly the amount of data that they generate. And we have something to deal with it, saying that, yeah, maybe it can be common things that we shouldn't monetize, but it's not a fight already already win.
I think that is like awareness is the first thing, clearly, as always. But how we can promote a different model, it's interesting because, for example, for the travel platform, imagine that right now all the biggest travel platforms are American, but Europe is the biggest travel market. And you can imagine how little taxes do these platforms pay. And I really don't understand why is this can be considered even acceptable somehow, no? But for how can we get an advantage over existing platforms is like if we think on what are our peculiarities. So in a things that is so intimate like travel, the fact that behind there isn't a model that is based mainly on profit, or at least like it try to make it attractive, but it's not like that the end. You can trust much more these things. Like cooperativism, it really enhances trust. It can really be a vehicle to get back to have the people central. And it's, for example, in something like traveling, I think that everyone will enjoy more in knowing that they are contributing more to the local economy, or that they are giving money to someone that a little bit care more than normal people that are maybe owner of entire buildings that put their house on booking.com or what else, you know. So I think that we can have some advantages. I think that we should be really campaigning against the digital colonization that is happening right now and that will happen in the coming 10 years. Right now, sharing economy is 30 billion revenue in Europe per year. In 10 years, it will be 300 billion of revenue per year. And like we are risking this huge colonization, digital colonization, and we should act right now because it's something that is really, really scaring.
Just to say it quickly, I think one of the things is that social economy is not a small thing. I mean, cooperativism is just a part of economy, of normal economy. It is not, and if we said it once, I mean, it's just a way of making economy, but it's not a small thing that just, you know, for some people who are nice, but it's just small initiatives. It can be really an answer to global economic problems.
The cities can help in this process. As he was saying at the beginning, we can create or help to create an ecosystem that is friendly with this kind of initiatives on these kinds of platforms, that's for sure. With the social part, but also with technology, and with we are in the city developing a 5G public net. We are doing some other things just to help the people who has ideas. And we are the first part interested in having another solutions, because we are the one paying the consequences of the wrong platforms economy as well as a city. So as I said before, we have to working in these nets and showing the people that there are another way of making things, and that it's possible, and that it's working, and that it's a question of will sometimes, and to awareness, as it has been told.
Okay, thank you very much. We are out of time, so I think that anyone has a question? No? Yeah, one question? So just time for one question, okay?
Hi, it's actually not a question, but an offer. I work at the European Commission in Policy Lab, and I'm working on social economy and on platforms. And I'm developing canvases to make visible exactly what you're saying. And I need help so that... I'm not talking by myself to some people and they think I'm crazy, but that it's actually reflecting something that is happening, that is simply not visible. And what you said before, well, the normal is not, it's the normal, and what we see is not normal. Well, the problem is that we live in an environment where the normal is what it's heard most. And if you have a strong lobbyists, the normal becomes the not normal. And so we need to have a voice in a certain sense. And we need to learn how to show things that are not visible. And so I'm here tomorrow, I'm here later. If we can have a small chat, I'll be really happy. Thanks.
Thank you very much. This is Sol. Thank you all of you for participating. It was really interesting. And thank you to the rest.